You want the Okay, we are going to start off with the Bandera Boulevard Special Improvement Maintenance District meeting. I call this meeting to order at 5:30 on November 20th. We can have a roll call.
Larry Atencio.
Here.
Dennis Flores.
Here.
Heather Graham.
Here.
Regina Maestri.
Here.
Sarah Martinez.
Here.
Vicente Martinez Ortega. Here. Lori Winter. Excused.
Reading and approval of the minutes. I need a motion to dispense the minutes.
I move to dispense with the reading and approve the minutes of the regular meeting dated November 14th, 2022 as distributed.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Larry Atencio.
Yes.
Dennis Flores.
Yes.
Heather Graham.
Yes.
Regina Maestri.
Yes.
Sarah Martinez.
Yes.
Vicente Martinez Ortega.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Public hearing. May we have a staff report?
Madam President, members of City Council and Mayor, this Bandera Improvement District has an advisory letter from the committee and then also the 2024 budget. If there are any questions, I'll take those at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'm not seeing anybody else here for public comment. Do we have a motion to approve the budget?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Larry Atencio.
Yes.
Dennis Flores.
Yes.
Heather Graham.
Yes.
Regina Maestri.
Yes.
Sarah Martinez.
Yes.
Vicente Martinez Ortega.
Yes.
Item passes.
Passes
6-0.
6-0. The time is 5:32 and I adjourn this meeting. Next up, we have the South Point Special Improvement Maintenance District. So I'll call this meeting to order. Today is Monday, November 20th. The time is 5:32. Can we have a roll call?
Larry Atencio.
Here.
Dennis Flores.
Here.
Heather Graham.
Here.
Regina Maestri.
Here.
Sarah Martinez.
Here.
Vicente Martinez Ortega. Here. Lori Winter.
Reading and approval of the minutes. Can we have a motion to dispense the minutes?
I move for the reading and approval of the minutes of the regular meeting dated as November 14, 2022 as distributed.
Have a second? Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Larry Atencio.
Yes.
Dennis Flores.
Yes.
Heather Graham.
Yes.
Regina Maestri.
Yes.
Sarah Martinez. Vicente Martinez Ortega.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Public hearing. May we have a staff report?
Yes, attached to this agenda is a letter from the South Point Special Improvement Maintenance Advisory Committee and their 2024 budget. That concludes the staff report.
Thank you. I see nobody here from the public wanting to speak. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Or
So moved.
approve the budget?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Larry Atencio.
Yes.
Dennis Flores.
Yes.
Heather Graham.
Yes.
Regina Maestri.
Yes.
Sarah Martinez.
Yes.
Vicente Martinez Ortega.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Time is 5:33 and I adjourn this meeting. And our last special meeting is the North Gateway Business Improvement District. The time is 5:33, Monday, November 20th. I call this meeting to order. May we have a roll call?
Larry Atencio.
Here.
Dennis Flores.
Here.
Heather Graham.
Here.
Regina Maestri.
Here.
Sarah Martinez.
Here.
Vicente Martinez Ortega.
Here.
Lori Winter.
Do I have a motion to dispense the minutes?
I move to dispense with the reading and approve the minutes of the regular meeting dated November 14, 2022 as distributed.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Larry Atencio.
Here.
Dennis Flores.
Yes.
Heather Graham.
Yes.
Regina Maestri.
Oh, yes.
Sarah Martinez.
Yes.
Vicente Martinez Ortega.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. Public hearing. May we have a staff report?
Yes, Madam President, members of City Council and Mayor, attached is the 2024 budget from the North Gateway Business Improvement District. That concludes the staff report. I will take any questions.
Thank you. I see nobody here wanting to speak from the public. Do I have a motion to approve the budget?
So moved.
We have a second? Any discussion? Call for the vote.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Sarah?
Sarah, okay. Larry Atencio,
Yes.
Dennis Flores,
Yes.
Heather Graham,
Yes.
Regina Maestri, Sarah Martinez, Vicente Martinez Ortega.
Yes.
Passes 6-0. This time I adjourn this meeting at 5:35.
Excellent. And the time is 5:35. I'd like to call this work session to order. First on our agenda are city updates. So Ms. Solano, please take it away.
Thank you, Madam Chair, City Council, and Mayor Gradisar. I have a couple of updates. I'll start with the mayor declaring Saturday, November the 25th as Small Business Saturday. It is with a proclamation earlier today. It's an opportunity for us all to support our friends and colleagues while supporting the local Pueblo economy that benefits everyone. So shop Pueblo on Saturday. The next update is to congratulate Chief Knoller. The Pueblo Police Department was recognized by the Drive Clean Colorado at the state with the 2023 Fleet Leadership Award. The city of Pueblo is working towards having the police fleet updated with nearly 20% electric vehicles by the end of 2024. Currently, there are 9, with 5 more due to be received in the coming weeks. And moving into 2024, there will be Ford 150 Lightnings that are all electric. So chargers are going in and electric vehicles, and the police department was recognized with an award in October. Congratulations to the chief and the PD. And just a reminder to the community that the Your Idea, Your Neighborhood project going into 2024 is in the month of November, still accepting applications to serve on the review committee that will be receiving and reviewing all of the applications for funding. I'm proud to say there are 30 applications that have been submitted by the community members for consideration of being selected to serve as one of the 9 who will review all the applications. That application period is open through November the 30th, which is 1 more week. And the last update that I have today is a request and direction from City Council. Mr. Gil Romero with the Capital Success Group, his professional services contract is on the consent agenda for next Monday, November the 27th, at Council's direction. He's asked to schedule a planning work session for Council before the legislation season begins in January, and he'd like to meet with you in December. So with your approval, we'll look to schedule a meeting with him. There's only 2 meetings in December that could occur at a work session, and we'll just add on the additional time frame, either December the 11th or December the 26th. Do you have any preference? And we'll move forward and ask if that time's available for him.
Does council have a preference between those 2 dates? I think whatever is best for Mr. Romero's and company schedule.
Okay, thank you. The city attorney office or the mayor's office will move forward to get in contact with him and let him know what works best in his calendar. Thank you. And that does conclude city updates for this evening. Do you have questions or direction for me?
Questions for Ms. Solano?
Ms. Solano, were you
Counselor
going to talk a little bit about the food and the compressor? And
Thank you. I knew that there was one more item. Last week, Councilor Martinez forwarded a message from Helen Benavidez at the soup kitchen, where the soup kitchen had suffered the loss of their refrigerator, needed to have a compressor replaced, $5,000 worth of food, and the opportunity to accept the daily contribution from grocery stores without any place to store it. So they were in a bind. Thank you to the community that came together. The mayor submitted from mayor's contingency the shortfall for the compressor. The new one was arrived and it is in. The Pueblo Food Project donated immediately the $5,000 worth of food that they have and delivered last week. And with a referral to the Colorado Housing Finance Authority through Caroline Parr in the community, she was going to look at some financial assistance. And Lexi Ellis through the county's Department of Human Services is also in contact with Helen. So she sent a very nice thank you message today with the community binding together, and they felt like they were in good shape again going into the holiday week. So I wanted to share that with council about the actions that were taken and that small accident that had taken place. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone's pretty quick response to that. So thank you as just a whole team. Thank you for coming together. Councilor Flores?
Someone made mention at our last meeting that Temple Emmanuel Synagogue was, had requested some money from council contingency. And it kind of just dropped off the edge and it wasn't brought up again, but I'd like to bring it back up. I did talk to the president today of Temple Emmanuel, and they're working on about $140,000 project to make the synagogue accessible to the handicapped individuals. And but I was thinking somewhere between 1,000 to 2,000, and I know that we have a limited amount left in the contingency of the city council. But could you look into that? The year's almost over, and I would like to lose at least 2,000 if it's in the fund. But I think we're pretty close to that, and but it would be a great project for us to do, especially what's happening nationally and worldwide with the Jewish community. I think it would send a message that we're at least thinking of them.
Thank you, Councilor Flores. I'm unaware, so I will ask Tracy and Alyssa in the mayor's office if they've received a request.
Okay.
And also the balance in council's contingency is, I think, just about at 3,000
Okay.
going into December.
All right.
Counselor Maestri.
Was there anything coming up for the wreaths out at Roselawn Cemetery for the military graves? I noticed it came across as a request in our emails. Are we putting anything towards wreaths this year?
There's not anything on the November 27th agenda, so I will circle back with both of those two items as soon as I fire up my computer.
Okay, thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
I know the event is on your event schedule,
Mhm.
and I shared that with the Mayor's Youth Council this last week at their meeting last Friday. In the event, there's youth that would like to go out and contribute that morning as well.
Mhm. Okay.
My only question, Ms. Solano, is I know that the Parade of Lights are coming up. Does the city have a float in that?
Thank you for that question. I have also a request in to check if municipal court has a plan to have their float in. The city staff who made the city state fair parade and the Fiesta Day parade made the decision not to build one for the holiday. So, but municipal court is who I'm checking with, and I will send that electronically for all of you.
Great. And then I want to bring to my fellow counselors' attention that, as Ms. Solano has stated, there's 2 work sessions that are canceled in December because of lack of presenters. So there's no work session on December 4th, and then no work session on December 18th, although December 18th is the outgoing council reception at 4:30 to 5:30 downstairs. So just keep that in mind for your calendars. Also, you can see that it's pretty light. So if you have a topic that you want to talk about in December, now's the time. Excellent. Moving on our agenda then, we're going to hear from our friends at the Human Relations Commission. So can I please have Ms. Vargas to the podium? And then to the podium, I also see Ms. Tripp for the record. You want to make sure your the mic's on.
One? Okay. Yay, we do have thank you very much for having us here. We have a little presentation on the slides that just talks about what we've been doing over the past year and what our plans are for the future. Is somebody rolling the slide? Should I be cueing?
Oh, here it is.
Perfect. So these are, you can tell, our city appointments, county appointments, joint appointments, and our youth appointment. Currently, I'm sitting as chair. My name is Calico Vargas, and our vice chair is Dawn Tripp Sena. And we have Richard Blair as our, treasurer. And we have
Benjamin Caldera as our secretary.
You. So those are our executive team. Everybody's been contributing though throughout the year, and it's a great group of people to work with. We focused on endowments this past year, Save the Spanish, a calendar initiative that was actually also a contest, a community of breakfast, and we created and launched a website. These are the organizations listed that we have aided with the endowments this year. And on top of the endowments, we did try to send people from the Human Relations Commission to support the activities and events that the endowments were chipping in to fund. The Save the Spanish was at Central High School, and there is a Facebook page if you're more interested in that, but we did write a letter on behalf of Save the Spanish and attempted to help bring the Spanish classes back to the school. This is some more information about the calendar. This was our second year doing the calendar initiative, and students get really involved and get excited, and we give calendars out around the community and at the libraries and to the families of the students who participated. We also had a guest speaker at our breakfast that was also a fundraiser, and we participated in Pride in Pueblo this year, again in the parade, and had a booth. Would you like to say anything about our speaker for
Sure.
the event?
So our speaker was Judge Regina Walters. She's from Colorado Springs. So she is retired and she's a substitute judge around the state now. She has an LLC, Equity and Inclusion, where she talks and focuses on the cradle to prison pipeline. And we invited leaders from the community, and I think it was a very successful breakfast. And we hope to do more with her in the future.
Thank you. And then this is actually our website. It's a picture of it. You can see we have added an advocacy form, and that has already been utilized by 5 different families to reach out for our assistance. And we have resources as well. I don't know that this part will work because it was a PDF, but this was an actual link. So this will take you directly to the website. And then in the future, we had a strategic planning meeting back in March for 2024. And that's where we kind of came up with our fund budgeting and activity planning that we would do for 2024. We're having a retreat in December, and that will probably be a 2-part retreat because we feel like we have a lot of things that we want to cover. So we want to reconnect with the community and build relationships, and that's a top priority for us. And we would also, because of that, like to bring back onto staff an executive director or an office coordinator. That's a position that existed before COVID. And we just feel like it'd be very useful to have somebody in an office space that will be able to get people to get to them really consistently throughout the week, every week. And then we're going to have various committees to help with all of our initiatives. Committees would be fundraising, education, outreach, and operations. And you can see kind of the things that we've been talking about. I'm sure those will be more solidified during our retreat time. Education, we're planning on doing more advocacy work and activism in the community. As I said, we've already had about 5 different families reach out to us. We'd like to lead by example and be able to mediate and educate in our community. We also would like to continue being a part of community events and partner with different organizations that have similar missions to ours and host similar events with those kinds of missions. And we're going to be more active on social media along with our website. So this is just a recap of the things that we're looking forward to in 2024. And we've been doing this, I guess, since 2001, and we plan on doing this for a very long time. Last Tuesday, we had a meeting with the mayor, the sheriff's office, the DA. We asked Chief Nolan to be there, but there was some community pressing things happening last week, so he was not able to be there. And the fire chief, Barb, was also in attendance. So a good meeting, and we asked how we can best serve, and the mayor was sharing with us that he would like us to be sort of that person or that group of people that people in the community can come to when they have any problems that are coming up, and we can act as mediators and try to find solutions and resources. And that's what we hope to continue to do. Do you all have any questions for us?
Yeah, thank you, Human Relations Commission, for that presentation. Questions from council? Councilor Flores?
When you did have an executive director, how far back did that go?
Do you know how far back?
2020? Yeah, I think it was right before COVID.
Right.
Did you mean when did it start or when did
No,
it
When
end?
did it end?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, when it ended, you obviously had the resources. Do you have the revenue now to be able to hire a full-time executive director?
We have saved some money because of COVID, because we weren't able to do as many activities and be as involved. And so we definitely can contribute to that starting. We also plan on having the fundraising committee coming up in 2024, which is something that we've been lacking. I think that we'll be able to make that sustainable in the future for sure. Our first year, though, we may need a little bit of help, and I think that's reflected in our budgeting.
And you've submitted a budget to the city?
We've submitted it to the county and the city, and I believe you all should have a copy of that report.
I think we do. And it sounds like when you did have an executive director, you were a consistent, you provided services in directing people to the right departments or the right agencies that could help them. So you were kind of like a referral agency. And you haven't been able to do that now without an executive director, but I would imagine that's one of your goals.
Mm-hmm.
It is definitely to refer to resources and connect people. It's also one of our goals to just build that relationship and having a person on staff who's dedicated to going and attending various meetings and being able to be a part of things in the community that a lot of us who volunteer are working full time. And so sometimes it's a little difficult for us to make everything every week. So we just see it as an advantage to branching out and getting to know people and developing relationships more as well.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? I guess I kind of have a question for maybe for Ms. Solano. How would that part-time coordinator, given that the Human Relations Commission is joint city and county, would that be a city and county employee, or how would that work?
Madam Chair, from my memory, it was not a city or county employee. They were independently selected a part-time staff member, and I don't know the nuances of how the position was paid, but it was not a city employee.
And do you all have then an office space for this individual?
We
currently
have an office space. It's out towards the county.
Yeah,
East 4th.
Yeah. It's on East 4th. Can't remember the name of the building.
I can't remember the name of it.
It's a county building on Amarillo and 4th.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, we really have a lot of storage there. We have files from things that we've done in the past and signage and different things like that, but there's nobody really manning that space.
So I know in the past, the Human Relations Commission has really prioritized their focus and what they've been working on. I think last year or the year before, it was around behavioral health. This sounds a bit different, and that there's not just one specific priority area, but rather almost like case management-ish. Is that what I'm hearing?
I see some case management, but I think we have so many commissioners now. Before we had a lighter load of commissioners, we're pretty fully staffed. We have a few openings this December, but I think we'll be getting those filled pretty readily. And with that, we feel like we have the capacity to form these committees so that we can do more in the community. And so that's why the focus is both advocacy, education, the fundraising pieces, so that we can just encompass and continue to grow and do more work.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that it was the mental health with the stakeholders meetings. I had just come on the commission. So I think it's a little hard to know the history when the commission is always changing. But I think that was due to COVID and not being able to get out in the community and advocate and do the referrals and meet with the community. So that was a way to get people together and focus on one area of a marginalized group, which was mental health. Then.
Okay.
There are a lot of records that show mediations, educational things going on with the commission. So a lot of different things did happen previously. And so we're just hoping to get back to more of that kind of work.
And that education is not necessarily about one specific topic, but rather just like equity and equality for humans. Okay. And then in your budget, I see that there's a line item around honorariums. Can you talk about what that means?
Well, I know we had the judge speak, and I don't believe we gave her an honor. She didn't accept an honorarium, but for whenever we have someone speak, like I said, we're just getting back to this, so we haven't had to use that, but we hope to have more speakers like we had when we had the judge here.
Oh, okay. So like this, so inviting people to come speak about a topic. Got it.
Mhm.
Other questions? I also just want to note, so I know that HRC submitted for an $18,000 request from the city. The mayor's recommendation is for $15,000, which is what that he's putting forward. Is there any, so that's a difference of 3,000. Do you know where that 3,000 deficit is going to be affected in the budget, or where you're going to cut that? Or
I'm sure we'll have to look at that as a group and see where that would fit in. And we may just try to reorganize funds across a few different areas. But we're grateful for the 15,000 request or submission.
great. Other questions? Seeing none, I appreciate Ms. Tripsana and Ms. Calico for that presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, City Council members. Thank you, Mayor.
So moving on along our agenda then, our next presenter is Mr. Maddock with CyberCube School. And if there's going to be guests that are joining Mr. Maddock, if you could say your full name for the record, whoever speaks, that would be great.
Okay, I'm Kurt Maddock.
Laura Stallford with Puebleplex.
Ralph Rivas of Quebec Consulting.
I'm Matt Albright, and I'm with the Southern Colorado Economic Development District.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you, Mayor, council members. I really appreciate your time today. So do you guys have the CyberCube School up? Okay, great. So a few months ago, Rolf came to me and he said, you know, I want to start this cybersecurity school. There's a huge need in our community. We can't attract high-tech companies because we don't have that workforce. So I said, this is a great idea. So I said, I'm a kind of a connector. So I like to connect people together. So I'm on the board of Puebleplex. We have a huge need there because we've got 2,000 employees coming off of the mission, and they're going to be getting dislocated soon. And so I've been working with Laura and then Matt with the SCED to figure out if there's any other funding sources and things like that to really get this program up and running. So I've been working, and we put together kind of a business plan and feasibility study. And so really our mission is to grow the local tech workforce. So if you could change it's me? Okay. Perfect. So, obviously we want to grow our local tech workforce. We want to retain the PCD and PCAP workforce. The problem is, we have this huge brain drain in our community. All of our college STEM graduates, they leave the community once they get their degrees. And we have 2,000 people, like I mentioned, that are going to be transitioning over the next 3 years, essentially. So we want to figure out how we can keep those local employees here in the community, and then also kind of grow our future workforce. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Laura here.
So I wanted to speak just briefly regarding the economic impact that the workforce represents. Puebleplex had taken on a study where we conducted a workforce retention and transition evaluation. And this was to provide the community perspective as to the drawdown schedules and the RIFs, the reductions in force that are planned over the next few years, all the way through 2028, related to both of those workforces. And so part of our involvement in this project is a supportive role because there have been a number of employees that have expressed interest in this type of training. So this first slide showcases some information on the PCAP workforce and, some of the economic impact that is represented by their employment at the plant, and also what potential representation there is as that workforce transitions off the project. Here is an indication of the Pueblo workforce. The previous slide was related to the PCAP workforce, and this slide is representative of the Army Pueblo Chemical Depot workforce that's approximately 400 employees.
That's it. All right. I guess it's my turn. Good evening. Ralph Schreiber from Silverback Consulting. I'm a small business owner, originally from Germany, been here over 20 years. Community has been wonderful to me. Worked with the police department, sheriff department, and have lots of local customers I support in the cybersecurity realm. And I have in the past always hired people from PCC or any high school and try to give them an opportunity to grow in cyber. And it is sometimes difficult to pay them the rate they would get in Denver or other states even. And what I've noticed is that when I go to Colorado Springs to First Friday, which is a group of cybersecurity specialists we meet at the National Cybersecurity Center, there's lots of young adults which have certification, but they cannot find a job either because they're lacking the actual hands-on, the actual workforce. Yeah, it's nice that you have Security Plus and Network Plus, but have you ever worked in this field? No, well, come back when you have done that. So that is one of the problems we have identified. And so I'm hoping to bring back to the community. I'm a cybersecurity guy. I'm a certified ethical hacker. I love this stuff. And I feel I can bring something to Pueblo that we grow and keep our cybersecurity young adults here. And then when Kurt talked to me about Pueblo Plex, I realized that this is a very unique solution to offer these people who, are I don't know, 30 to 40 years old. They need, they will be released soon over the next 2-3 years, I believe. And they need a shorter education phase than what CSU Pueblo and PCC can offer, a year, 2 years. So we came up with this package where we can possibly do this in 6 months, and work with their schedule. And we do have, let's see. So just a couple numbers. In the United States, there's over 500,000 cybersecurity jobs openings in the US, 22,000 in Colorado openings. So there's a direct need for qualified cybersecurity people. But again, the challenge is just because you have the certification, that doesn't mean you're going to get hired. Out of the depot, rough numbers, we have interest of 1,200 depot employees to be re-educated in the cybersecurity industry. And we also working with CSU Pueblo, PCC, and high schools to have an enrichment program for students. So we don't want to be competing with any of the schools. We want to sort of specialize them and give an opportunity which the regular curriculum cannot offer, right? So my hope is that we could have a place where younger students actually admire the precision we offer them here in Pueblo, here in Southern Colorado, and say, well, there's my career. I want to follow this path. Because sometimes you hear, well, I spent $30,000 and now I work at Target. So we have a two-sided problem here, right? We don't have enough people who have the certification, but we don't have enough employers who can hire them. So we're trying to come up with a different approach in making this happen. Yeah, so let's see. We would be working with national accredited instructors. We will have, and this is, I think, one of the key differentiator, the post-certification training, where we offer a 2-week real hands-on, where people rip out a server hard drive and, put a router in place. Not just, I want to be clear, most of the programs offer virtualization. So you can click on a router or whatever modem, and then you drag it over and voila, you have it configured. It's not that easy, right? I believe I'm a hands-on guy, and I believe that a lot of people who had or will have this opportunity to actually do it have a better way of understanding being stronger in a job interview. Yeah, so then the middle and high school enrichment programs is something we're looking into. And of course, with PCAP, the adult upskilling tracks. And I believe I'm going to give it to you, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Then to wrap this up, just to wrap this up. So we estimate about $1.7 million to do a first-class facility with one floor dedicated to classroom and one floor dedicated to this learning lab for that experiential learning opportunities and hands-on. And then we want to hire 2 instructors to get started, and then the curriculum development, would be done by the instructors, but we kind of already have an outline of it. And so what we're asking for is $300,000 from the city. And then we're also going to the county and asking for $300,000. And then that's where SCED comes into play, as we're working with them on other grants and funding. We have some other meetings already set up with some foundations. And so we're also going to get around $350,000 donation and buy computers and just building the classroom and lab. So to make it a first class, we need basically 1.7 million, but it pencils out. I estimate this thing could be, profitable by the first year, based on the numbers of students we anticipate. So, and then the last slides do have, the budget numbers on that. So you guys, I know we have 5 minutes left for questions, so.
Great. Thank you, CyberCube school team. Questions from council? Councilor Martinez Ortega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you both all 4 of you for putting this idea together and really, I mean, starting a school of any kind is not easy. So great work. But after these folks out of their transitioning phase of the chemical depot or what have you, they go to the school, and what kind of jobs are maybe on the prospects locally here after that? Like, do you have any idea now?
Want me to take it?
No, you take it.
Okay, so I mean, there are like a lot of our manufacturing companies, they need some IT people, right? So that would be the first area that they could get a job at. But to recruit these high-tech Department of Defense, aerospace, cyber companies to our community, we don't really have any of those right now.
We have to have these folks before.
Yes. Yeah. And honestly, not being from Pueblo, and I go to Denver, I go to Springs, and people look at me, I sit with these other IT people and they're like, oh, you're from Pueblo? Yeah, so what? I mean, honestly, it's face it. People always look down to Pueblo, think we're blue collar, and I'm tired of it. I'd like to make a difference here. I'd like to bring some really good kids, even from La Junta, from bring them up here and say, you know what, we can do this.
A lot of folks need opportunities. Thank you.
If we could ever diversify away from manufacturing, this is our chance really for the future to help us diversify.
That's a good idea, and I know like there are some of those defense companies looking at Pueblo specifically. To relocate or expand their operations. Thank you.
Councilor Flores.
As you know, we have an organization called PEDCO that basically, has provided packages that include training. And a lot of times if a company decides to move to Pueblo, it could take them 2 years to build their facility. So there's a big gap right there between the time they make a decision to move to Pueblo and the time they can actually move in. That gives a window of maybe a year and a half, 2 years. How long is it going to, your curriculum is established. How long of what do they get at the end of this? A certification? And is it a 1 year program, a 2 year program?
It's about 6 months actually. And they would get several certifications when they graduate.
Right.
Plus the hands-on learning, which makes them very hireable. And our instructors have already job placement, credentials. They've already been placing hundreds of people into careers, in local companies. I mean, not in Pueblo, but at least we can start to recruit those kind of companies once we have this workforce built up.
In addition to that, if I may, sorry, there's a great question. After COVID, everything changed. Remote. I mean, we've all been on Zoom, we've all been on Teams, right? And so I see your point, but I also see if I'm a big company and I look at Pueblo and go like, okay, they give me tax break, that's good. Okay, traffic is not, weather's nice, yeah, but I don't have the workforce. Well, if we can offer that, say we have these people here, oh, it's going to be a while before we have the facility built. Well, we can bring them online now remotely. Right. So I don't think that's a really big challenge anymore. I understand, but because cyber is not the manufacturing hands-on, it's a keyboard and a computer. It's a little bit different for the workforce.
Yeah, my grandson works for Palo Alto, but he works remotely, and he's moved several times because he just can. But it seems to me that there's an opportunity here for remote workers to move to Pueblo, primarily because you can't afford a house anymore in Denver or El Paso County. You can still afford a house here. And I think there's a market for remote workers that would come to Pueblo and work in these things. But it's a chicken and egg thing. What comes first? The company that needs this, because a lot of companies want a ready-made workforce. They want trained, go into a community that has trained people right away. And so, have you talked to the Petco people about?
Yeah, I mean, we've been working with them to try to get support letters for other grants. And then, we told them we were presenting tonight. So we do want to have some more conversations with them. But again, they're looking to recruit companies, and we're trying to build the workforce, which would help recruit the companies.
Right. But what you're saying is that there are leads that you could potentially provide to Petco of, cybersecurity companies that might be interested in moving to Pueblo if they knew there was a trained workforce. That to me is really important. If you have the market and you have the companies that need workers, this would be an ideal place for them to move to.
And if we can start to train these people in cybersecurity, they could get remote work jobs and still stay here.
Yeah.
Because most of the people at the PCAP, they say they would like to stay in the community that are already here. So
right. My grandson is a good example. I mean, he had to go, elsewhere to find the job that he had with his degree in computer science.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Councilor Tencio.
Yeah, I really like that school like that. She told me one time she gave me a list of.
I thought he did that. She could give me a list of 30 companies that are wanting to move physically, and a city like Pueblo would be ideal for them to move to, but they can't because the workforce isn't here. Exactly. So developing the workforce is really integral to bringing these companies, because these companies aren't going to come here. So exactly. I really like the idea of that you're starting a school like this.
Councilor Maestri.
How much is your tuition going to be? And are you going to be qualified to where someone can receive subsidized loans and so forth in order to pay for their tuition?
So the existing workforce at the PCAP and PCD, they already have some kind of job retention or job retraining funds available. So,
but sometimes you have to be accredited Learning Institute in order to receive those funds, especially if they come from government, right?
Right.
Is it, they're government funded. Don't you have to have certain special accreditations in order to receive those funds?
To pass the certifications, you have the certificate, right? So you have the certification that is it's a nationally accredited certification program. So you take the test, So you have those certificates. So that's the key part of that whole thing.
No, for
Like,
you.
I don't think you have to have the school be certified in any sort of, other than you have these accredited instructors that
Well,
have.
I've seen people like go to massage therapy school, and because they're not accredited, part of the curriculum, they can't receive like a subsidized loan or any type of loan for those programs. So, or they have to take out a high interest educational loan in order to, so that's what it seems like there might be a snag there somewhere.
So maybe I can speak to that. So at this point, we were just focusing on PCAP, and they're covered. They're not looking for government subsidiary. In the future, or I want to address the certification. So we would follow CompTIA. I don't know whether anybody's familiar with A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, which will give them robust certifications to go into the workforce. At this point, we didn't really discuss, we need money from the government to substitute the education. So, but that's maybe in phase 2, phase 3, but we will have accredited educators in our facility.
Yeah, but it's my understanding that your facility has to be accredited in order to receive certain types of transitional funding. I mean, when I work at the mill and they left, and then I had to get education. I had to be with an accredited school for them to pay for that. So that's why I'm asking how you work that out to make sure that people aren't having to pay completely out of their pockets to go there.
Okay.
I think it's a good question, and Laura will have to look that one up.
And then so the person is just getting a certification to go through your training, but what if jobs don't come here to Pueblo? I'm just saying, what if they don't come here to Pueblo? Does that certification take them somewhere else in the country, or is it going to be that well recognized?
Yes. So absolutely. All the CompTIA certifications are completely recognized, and people could apply for remote jobs once they have the certification. But we want them to stay here and work here and live here and be part of the community. But that doesn't prohibit them to work remotely somewhere else or to move out. But the whole idea is to keep the workforce here, and while we have the workforce, attract companies to this community.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying, would it work outside of Pueblo, those certifications?
Yes.
Because any company that you're bringing here is going to know that the training has been done by your facility. But I don't know if that would work for somebody, in Atlanta.
Yeah, as long as they have the certifications, that's what matters on the people's resumes. So.
Yes, so the certification speaks for itself. So there's certified ethical hacker, there's CISSP. It doesn't matter who teaches it per se. It matters that you have the certification in your field, and then you can put it on your resume. I can do this online on my own dime if I want to, as long as I pass the certification. I'm not qualified for a job requirement, or I can apply for that job now.
Yeah, I'm just, it seems like not everything is always recognized out there in the community.
Well, we don't take the test for them. We help them train to take the test. They have to still pass the test on their own.
I see.
Yeah. So they have to go to a facility that it's proctored.
Oh, so they're not receiving the certification from you. They're only training to take the test.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. No, that is a requirement from CompTIA, for example. It's a proctor base, so we wouldn't do that. No, absolutely not.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Graham.
Can you speak to what the difference is? I think CSU provides a cybersecurity program. Can you speak to what the difference would be between the Cube and the school that's...
Yes, actually, Dr. Roberto Mejias, I talk to him all the time. They have a current CIS program going where a couple students came to my office, and then they asked me, how do you protect your customers? So we walked through a particular document, and I gave information what firewalls we use. Of course, I couldn't, give information beyond that, but I'm working closely with them, and we would not compete with them. And the cyber wolves are actually a fantastic group of young people with highly qualified, young people, and they leave the community. They don't have a job. My long-term goal would be to have a red team where so that certified ethical hackers, they hack for a living. they contact companies and say, we would like to do your penetration test. It's $15,000. Here are the rules of engagement. That is like the top. That is like the really the best of being in this career. And that's what a lot of young people are looking for. I want to be a hacker. What does that mean? Well, it's not as exciting as you think it is. Most of it is boring, coding. But yes, we're not competing with CSU Pueblo. Those are very, very intelligent. I talk to them and they outperform me by far, but they leave the community, So if we figure out how to keep them here, that would be our goal.
Would it be a similar curriculum, or is it a 2 or 4 year degree? Because I know you said this would be like a 6-month certification. Is there a difference? Do you know?
So phase 1, we were focusing on Pueblo-Plex and PCAP. Baby steps. Let's see what happens in year 2 and 3. Of course, there's always room for growth. If we succeed, which we hope we will, then we can change. But we don't really want to compete with PCC or CSU or Goal for that matter. We want to work with them, and we have letter of commitments where they say, yeah, this is a good idea. This is an enrichment program. This is a post-certification training. This is hands-on lab. We can't really do this. We have it a little bit, but we want to focus on that. Because, it's heartbreaking when you go to these events and you have 20 Security Plus people standing there and they can't find a job. Northrop says, no, come back when you have hands-on. No, that's reality today.
If I may, Rob, I think a good analogy would be CSU Pueblo's training doctors. This is getting medical techs ready to get a job here in our community and fill gaps. So when they come in, okay, we got 100 doctors. Well, do you have any x-ray techs? Do you have any? This would help fill those other gaps. So when employers come, or these folks they're prepared. And I know sometimes like, well, will these folks stay? This is 2,000 people. Even if 1% of them stay in our community, we'll be lucky. Otherwise, we're really giving them no opportunity. We're just kind of saying, well, thanks for your time. Good luck out there. And that's why our organization is here, kind of guiding, working with this group to say, hey, how can we develop this workforce? How can we help? And me personally, just passionate and working with these groups all through my whole career. Now in this position where I can kind of bring things together and as a support and serve as the district economic development group. Again, this is not our program, not to be confused with the small business incubator that we'll talk to you in a couple of weeks, I believe. But anything that really gives the opportunity for Puebloans to, one, stay in our community, young or old. Also, we cover 13 counties, so I work a lot in the Southeast Plains. And it's that upskill right now. We all know someone that's working 2 jobs, just slugging away, that really are capable if they had just a little training or got a certificate in something that they were passionate about. And I believe the number is 60% of the folks there at the Chemical Depot said that their top choice would be in this realm. Well, that's a big opportunity. Yeah, they're from Pueblo. So it just gives an opportunity. And the whole chicken before the egg thing with the putting the money in, we're about to see that at a national level. When we came out of the Depression, they trained the workforce and then the jobs came. We're doing it backwards this time. They're putting infrastructure money out there, which is a great thing, but we are not upskilling people at a fast enough rate, whether it's skilled laborers or tech or whatever it may be. So we're about to see in person over the next couple of years how this is going to work out for our communities, especially here in Southern Colorado that are traditionally underserved, on how does it work when you flood the money but don't have the workforce. So I think on many levels, it's important for our entire region, all of Southern Colorado, to get upskilled, whether it's skilled laborers, plumbers, electricians, or on this tech side. So that's what we're in support. But again, CSU Pueblo trains doctors. This is to give certifications so people can be employed. Thanks.
Yeah, this is really a workforce development program, whereas CSU Pueblo is a whole, it's a whole person kind of, 4-year degree where you might not even get into these specifics for your degree until your 4th year, so.
So what you guys can't see from down there is that, as the chairperson, I'm trying to see who needs a question, and we're all trying to buzz in at the same time because of how many questions we have, so, which is telling of the interest, I think, of council. So I have a couple. One, convince me why we can't use an existing building.
Okay, so number one is location. We have to make it super attractive, first class location, right? So that building fits that. And then there's not 10 gigabytes fiber link to anywhere else in the city that I'm aware of, except right to the front door of that building. So that's a huge part, where it's capable of doing data centers and this high tech learning lab. I mean, it's really set up for that. And then it's going to be able to attract new companies in cyber, that are looking for a lot of cyber security talent. And that building is a secure, it's called the SCIF for DOD, for Department of Defense. It's like exactly what DOD companies want, because it's like really secure. You can't, you can't transmit signals outside of the building because it's like built for, a World War III. So that's the main reason. So.
Okay. And then will students have to pay tuition to access the different programs?
Well, are you talking like the K through 12? Or are you talking adults?
I guess both.
Okay, so K through 12, it would be like an enrichment program. So we would be partnering with local school districts, charter homeschool, so they would not have to pay anything for the program, because it would be considered an enrichment program. And then as far as the adults, obviously they're going to have to pay some tuition, but hopefully that would be funded by their employers for the most part.
Counselor Maestri.
So if we were to, this is for the Laura, Mayor, Mr. Hippolyte. If we were to agree to something like this, where would this money be coming from?
Well, we'd have to find the money somewhere if the council wanted to do it. I mean, we've got a little bit of ARPA money left, but I think most of it's pretty much spoken for and accounted for at this point. So it's unclear where the money would come from. And I don't even know whether
we've already done that.
Used.
We're doing the budget this year, so I guess it would. Go ahead.
No, I just I want to preserve the right that we haven't made an ARPA analysis as to whether even ARPA money would be available for this project. I just we haven't gone through that part of the process. So I don't know yet. We haven't given an opinion yet. So just for council to know.
Councilor Tencio.
Yeah, let me encourage you to look at the lower level of our economic ladder, those people down there. It seems like whenever jobs come into town or whenever opportunities come into town, they go to the upper levels of the economic ladder, and those people are still down there. We still have, no matter who comes in, no matter what comes in town, we still have a 20% poverty rate, and it's stayed that way forever. And it's going to stay that way unless somebody goes down there to look for those people to try to bring them up. The city doesn't do it. Companies coming in doesn't do it. And whenever we suggest employees to those companies, we usually do it from the middle class, upper middle class people. Go down there and look for those people. There's a quality people who can learn. They're not stupid. They're just ignorant. Try to reach down there to try to get some of those students.
I mean, this is obviously
we don't do it.
Yeah, this is going to be our fastest way out of poverty for everybody.
And then people wonder why we have a 20 some percent poverty rate in this town. We don't do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why we really want to start those programs at middle school and high school, because if we get these kids excited about cybersecurity, I mean, there are so many job openings, and this is the surest way out of poverty for absolutely. So,
well, I think I'm thinking more of that 20-something, 30-something person who is in that economic ladder, who is floundering, has not much opportunity, and isn't going anyplace. Those are the people I'm really thinking of. They're educatable. they could learn, they could do things, but nobody reaches out to them. We don't, state doesn't, nobody does.
Council Martinez Ortega. Councilor Flores, did you have anything?
Yeah. We created, the city council created a economic dashboard that comes out every month, and we're about 1.5 years into it. And it's amazing to me that the most recent one, we get one a month, and the one that just came out in October reflects that we have 3,000 people unemployed in Pueblo, and we have 3,000 jobs. So there's this disconnect between how we're training people. We're training people for the jobs that don't exist, and we're not training people into the jobs that do exist. And there's about 2 or 3 grants and people that are currently working on this workforce development problem. And I really think that aside from what we do, that you need to connect with these projects. There's grant money out there through Department of Employment, through the state, but both the university and PCC, we've got their attention now. We've got their attention that at some point they need to start changing their curriculum to where the jobs are at. One example, right now in Pueblo, if there was 250 nurses, RNs, registered nurses, they could get a job in Pueblo. They just don't exist. And I think we have the same problem with cybersecurity people. And I think at some point, you need to be part of that discussion, this workforce. And there's lots of people that, in fact, if you want to call me later, I can put you in contact with the people that are working on this disconnect in the way that we're training people in Pueblo. And I think, we need to be involved in focusing on where the jobs are at. And we all know that the jobs are there for what you're trying to do. And, but I encourage you to get more involved in the workforce development piece, because it's going to be very enlightening as to, where the jobs are at.
Yeah, I believe Laura's already kind of dialed into that, but I'm happy to join as well. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, thank you.
Councilor Graham, did you have anything? Any other questions, I guess, from council to the cyber cube school people? Seeing none, I think staff maybe needs direction. There was a clear ask from council. Have you gone to present to the county yet?
No, we're trying to get on their calendars.
Okay. Do we want to move forward in finding the money out of ARPA, or seeing if this is eligible for ARPA or elsewhere, I guess is the question on the table.
Can I answer?
Councilor Flores has one more thing.
One of the things that I'd ask the mayor and I'd ask our mayor and our city attorney is to whether or not there's a possibility of using half-cent sales tax money for training that's kind of independent, from the way we do things through Petco. And the question is whether or not that ordinance, it's really a ballot issue that the citizens gave us the right to use this money to bring in businesses. The question is whether or not, and we do spend some of that money now for training. So the question is, can we do the training and pay for training independently of not having an actual company that's coming in, kind of doing this backwards?
So, Councilor Flores, I am not aware of any time the city's done that in the past. I think, to be clear, the way the half-cent sales tax ordinance works is there is a limit on how much money can be provided for training of employees, which is different than the limit on other ways the money can be used. So I'd have to do an analysis of what money even would be available to do training. I think the ordinance, just off the top of my head, does not require it be directly tied to a project. For example, you can build a shell building even if it's not directly tied to a project that will come in the future. So I'm not sure that would be an impediment, but the funding level and availability would be different in this particular context, because the training funds are not 100% of a project. There's some smaller portion.
I would direct you to when we were hit with COVID. We actually provided funds out of that half-cent sales tax to help over 600 small businesses in town. So we've made exceptions.
Yes.
It's not always clear to me or to any of us up here as to what the exceptions are. And it just seems that this seems like maybe a great example of where we're doing things a little bit backwards. And I guarantee you, if we could train 50 people in cybersecurity, that we could probably find a company that would grab those employees as quickly as they could. But again, I don't know what the answer is, but if you could look into it, I think it'd make our job easier as to where we could find the money.
Absolutely, will do.
As well as ARPA, if it's ARPA eligible.
I'll add that to the list as well.
Great. Are we good then to move forward in that direction from council?
Yes.
Majority saying yes.
Thank you.
Good luck at the county.
Yep. We'll keep you posted.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
very
you
much.
for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Meyer. Come talk to us about streetscaping. There you go. Prevent, promote, protect. Streetscape update.
Streetscape update.
Say that 5 times fast, Stephen.
I can't.
Well, do you want to try it?
I'm just gonna let you read here on the screen. So this is a list of projects that we brought to you earlier in the summer, I think it was, where the Streetscape Committee, the Keep Public Beautiful, and the Parks Department got together and came up with a list of streetscape projects and what we could do in this town to make those areas more beautiful. First, I want to digress, and I saw, where'd she go? Oh, Jennifer, who works in our Parks Department. She's the gardener. She's been working on doing Christmas lights. And so you need to go through City Park. She got up a centerpiece in the fountain there, that roundabout that has a Christmas tree lit up and starting to take shape. So
is that the first time we've had a Christmas tree on the fountain?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
She's the architect of it all. So she's been busy, and she got her lit up today, I believe it was. Looks good.
Congrats. So where else are there Christmas decorations?
So she's working on her major park. So a few things in Mineral Palace, the island, along the interstate, kind of trying to catch your eye as you're going down the interstate, and then in City Park, and then we'll see how much time we have.
Cool.
So, but she's been working hard at it.
Yeah. Thanks, Jennifer, for that work. Maybe we can have pictures at Monday's meeting. Can we have pictures?
Yeah. We can, can't we?
Yeah.
See?
Thanks.
Anyway, this is the list of projects that we brought back to you earlier in the summer. And really we've tackled the first project was at Amarillo Parkway, where we worked with Trees Please, and they went through and they removed all the old trees, the trees that were diseased and about to fall over, and then they're going to replant. I believe in the spring they're going to go through there and on their dime and replant that area with several trees. So that project's kind of done. Number 2, we're working on Northern Avenue. We came up with that streetscape that goes down through there from Regular Park all the way over to the interstate, and there's some landscape planters that were in there, and they were kind of dead plants and trees, and irrigation was broke. And so we're in the process. We got several of the landscape beds redone right about fair time. I was trying to get done right before fair time, but I think it was happening that week of fair. And so but the plants got in, the irrigations got kind of working, and now we're finishing up, finalizing on some major repairs for the irrigation system, connecting the landscape beds along there. And so that should probably be done here in the next month. And we're also looking at redoing some of those lands or concrete planters. And so they're finishing up on that kind of work, I think, here in the next month or so. So that project will be done. I don't think we spent the whole $150,000. That was kind of a price tag that we put on there in order to, in case we had to come through and redo the irrigation in such a way that we had to rebore all the planters together. And I don't think that's the case. So that one is getting close to being done and should be done here next month or so. Yeah,
that was my request, and I really want to thank you and the Parks Department and the mayor's office for giving the go-ahead on working on those planters in that northern business corridor, because we can't expect those businesses and the residents that live around there to take a whole lot of pride in their neighborhood if we're not meeting them halfway. So I appreciate the mayor's office, Stephen, and everybody in Parks.
Yeah, I think it's going to look pretty good. So that's where we're at. So the next three projects, 3, 4, and 5, I've kind of identified as kind of our priorities of what we would like to see going on as we work towards that $1 million worth of improvements. Troy Avenue is the median as you go all the way from Highway 50 to 47 to the college there. It's that there's a wide median down through the middle of it that's probably 15, 20 foot wide in some places, and it's just full of asphalt. So we would like to go through that, take out the asphalt, get plant xeriscape kind of plants planted in there, kind of what we have over there, similar on Bonfort, has no irrigation system. But on this one, I would like to do more of just a temporary irrigation where we could take our water truck over there, hook up the temporary irrigation to the water truck, let it drip for a day on the plant material to get established. You know, if we go in there and put a bunch of plants in there, we're still going to get water to them. So it's important that we, you know, make sure the investment survives. And so that's kind of more of a temporary irrigation. It's, but it's not going to be permanently hooked up to a meter or any kind of water source. That's kind of a big ticket item because it's so long. And it's, you know, a mile long, and we have to take out all that asphalt and redo it. And so that price tag is roughly about $500,000. The fourth one is the Pueblo Boulevard, Thatcher, from Thatcher to Northern, that trail along that, you know, from the golf course all the way down to Northern, that whole area. I think there's a little bit of irrigation at the very southern end. And so we would like to continue the irrigation and look at replanting that with more xeric kind of plants that are native grasses that'll be less water, take less water down the road. But we'd have to get some irrigation to get that started too. So it's always important, and then get some trees planted along there. So that's kind of our next project. And our fifth project we talked, and I think I told you wrong, Mayor. I was talking about number 6 when we were talking about the meeting the other day, but number 5 is the Thatcher intersection of Pueblo Boulevard and Thatcher. And it's redoing those corners, the landscaping those corners there at corner of the golf course, the ditch, and I think that Mexican restaurant, Arriba's. Is it Arriba?
Arriba's. Isn't that all sidewalks even right there?
What's that?
Isn't it all sidewalk? The 4 corners are sidewalk.
There is some old sidewalk in there, but there's some areas along the golf course and along the ditch areas that I think we can get some landscape in there. Planted. I think we can. And then we'll see how the Arriba's corner works. That's going to be a little more difficult because that's a CDOT right away. And so we have to get a special use permit, you know, through the CDOT organization. So that take a little bit of work, but those are kind of the first projects, 5 projects that we kind of thought would be roughly about $1 million worth of improvements. So we'd be looking at 3, 4, and 5. I've reached out and got a price, a proposal from a landscape architect to help us get the plans together, get that bidded out, and get that, you know, going sooner than later. So, and I think that was roughly about $30,000. And again, as always, it's important to point out that we need a full-time gardener. Jennifer needs help to help us take care of all these areas. So that's kind of the $1 million worth of recommendations that we're kind of looking at. Now, you guys, you know, you see the other list of the, you know, other 10 projects that are on there, ranging all the way, you know, from Main Street, redoing the Main Street down through here, those planters down through there. That's going to be kind of a costly item just because of the water lines and the, you know, the brick roadways and that kind of stuff. But I've kind of giving you my 2 cents on it, and that's where I'm headed, but I'm be willing to more than discuss, you know, what kind of direction you want to give me. This is just a map of all those areas again. Probably all know where they're at. So leave it up for a little bit of discussion.
Thanks, Mr. Meyer. This is per Councilor Atencio's request about allocating $1 million for streetscaping.
Yes.
If I remember correctly, Councilman Atencio.
Yeah, that Troy project, I hope you're doing the intersection of 47 and Troy. We did some landscape.
We did the bottom two.
It's still beautiful.
2 tiers or 3 tiers. I think the upper 2 are still got to be done.
Yeah.
And I think
the bottom one needs to be done. We did the middle.
Yep.
The top one and the bottom.
I've asked that to be we bid that out. Nobody bid on it. So we've asked Public Works to send that back out to bid. Yeah. And yes, that's
great.
Still trying to get
Glad
that
to
done.
hear it. Otherwise, I like the idea, and we do need another gardener.
We do.
Definitely. If we're going to maintain the projects that we have already and the ones coming, we're going to need another gardener. She can't do it by herself. And I understand she is doing a heck of a job on what we have, but we definitely need another one.
Any other questions? Councilor Maestri?
Is this in your budget already? Is $5.8 million worth of projects? Are they in your budget? Oh, you want additional on top of your
right.
budget?
We budgeted the first 2 projects that you saw on that list. The $75,000 was funded. The Northern was paid. $150,000 was paid, out of the ARPA funds. And no, we have not even budgeted the 500 or the 150 or 200 for the other 3 projects. So that's still going to have to be budgeted and appropriated.
And what about 6 through 15? Have those been?
Those are just on a
magic wand wish list.
Yeah, wish list.
Hmm.
Those were first identified as the high focal point areas that need to be nice to have some landscaping there.
Hasn't Lake Avenue already been done?
The first, I want to say half, probably a little more than half was done years ago with urban renewal in the city, completing that from the hospital down to roughly Iowa, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of it would go all the way to Public Boulevard.
And you're redoing Main Street, it looks like.
Well, it'd be a project we'd like
whole.
to do is redo those planter beds down through there.
Mm-hmm. We're just not, is it because we're not keeping up with the planter beds, or why are we?
They're probably, I'm going to say 30 some years old, 40 years old that, after so many years, there's so many utilities that go down through there and potholing and busting up the irrigation system. They just all got lost their irrigation. And it had some pretty tough old plants, but they're old big junipers, the old Fitzer juniper that grows the size of a house sometimes. Those are just, just big bushy kind of plants, and they need to be redone and planted more appropriately.
Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering, don't you have a change out plan every so many years? You're changing out plants because you're putting in plants, obviously.
No, we
outgrowing.
We always hope they live forever. I mean, that's what we should be. That's what the landscape architects help design those plants and identify those plants. And yeah, they should live to be 75, 100 years old.
Mm. No, I just wondered if you did it bits and pieces at a time, you wouldn't have a $1.5 million project on just one street. That's
good.
A plan.
Depends on what that scope looks like in the project.
Mm-hmm.
Councilor Flores.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
My question has nothing to do with this list here, but I think, and it really is something the county's controlling, but what is the status of the landscaping and the redesign of Union Avenue and the money that they were going to spend in redoing the whole streetscape?
And Andrew could update you a little bit better. I think he's working with the county on trying to get some contracts, get the contract together for that funding from the county for the 1A funds. I know there's that project and the East Side project for the streetscape over there. And those are the two agreements that they're will be trying to obtain. So I asked him today, he told me he's working with the county on trying to get those agreements put together between, our attorney's office and them.
When did the 1A money become available? It seems that this goes back 5 or 6 years. It's such a
16, I think the voters approved it.
And the county's holding the money for us. It's available as soon as we're ready to go.
Oh, so we're kind of in control of that.
Yeah,
Right.
I think Andrew was reported that they're working on their agreements as we kind of
Great
talking here. So
okay,
hopefully that'll come soon. The plans are done, especially for the east side, Union, Maine. I know they're finishing or working towards the end of getting the plans done. So
right. So everything Stephen has said is true so far. We're waiting for an IGA to be approved for the funds to be allocated for those projects. So the East Side Streetscape, the design is complete, ready to go. The construction is estimated somewhere, I guess total project, including design, is about $1 million. And they've already provided the design funds. And then we've also got the Main and Union project. I believe it's just a hair under $3 million that the county has for that project. The city's already got $4.5 million set aside for Main and Union. And then CDOT provided, I believe, $2.1 million as well. So Main and Union is the design for that project is currently finishing up. But again, same story, the IGA to obtain or allocate the county's funds to that project is the next step.
Good. Thank you.
So Stephen, looking at this list, given that number 1 and number 2 were essentially already allocated-ish in the fiscal year budget, my push would be, so that's 225,000. So what I remember is that Councilor Atencio, said, can we do an additional 1 million, not necessarily to the projects that have already been allocated in the budget. So can we, given that is that true?
$1 million with those projects.
Yeah, with the project.
Oh, with the projects? Yeah. Listen, I was trying to advocate for an additional 225.
Thank you. Nice. Okay, sure.
Given that those were already, in process.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to advocate for.
Well, they were a wish list before we thought about the $1 million.
But you're looking at me like, do I have that money?
No, I know you don't have the money. I do want to advocate for the FTE gardener position. And perhaps there will be salary savings in in beginning 2024 to make that. Yeah, we can reallocate, but I definitely agree. I walk through Mineral Palace in the summertime all the time. And I mean, the gardeners out there are just busting so much work to make it beautiful. So, I definitely see the need and I would be supportive of including that in the budget. Other questions? When are you going to start construction then in all of these, Stephen?
Well, I'll have to give it the mayor's office. We need, run the resolution or whatever through, or however we're going to fund it. We've got to get funding lined up and we've got to get the consultant on board to start working on the design. So if all that comes together, over the winter month here of December, January, we could get that design and hopefully start construction on some of this next summer.
Okay, cool. Other questions? No? Great.
Good. Thank you.
Good $1 million wish list.
Yeah. Fine.
Thanks, Stephen.
It could happen at all.
Okay. Moving on along on our agenda. And I do want to see the pictures from Miss Jennifer, the pictures next week about City Park Christmas decorations, please, and Mineral Palace. So we're going to talk about community choice energy. It looks like it's Mayor and Mr. Hippolyte for this presentation.
Yeah, let me just start by saying that community choice energy is something that Colorado's been talking about for quite some time. When we were going through our municipalization process, I think it was represented that the legislature was going to pass community choice energy the next year and wasn't any need to municipalize it. And if you look at the background paper that you have there, it talks, the argument here is that it's better for a community to have community choice energy than to municipalize a utility. But the fact of the matter is the legislature hasn't been able to act. And we've been asked, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Councilor Atencio, I think we've been asked to support a bill that will be introduced in the next session of the legislature that would allow for community choice energy to be an option for residential customers or maybe even business customers in territories served by investor-owned utilities. So they could decide to buy their power from somebody besides the investor-owned utility. I mean, there are costs obviously associated with opting out, but it would be a choice that consumers would have. So if you wanted to get 100% renewable energy, you could buy it from a company that provides 100% renewable energy. You wouldn't have to worry about buying it from Black Hills that's maybe only 30% renewable or 50% renewable or whatever the number is. You could make that choice as a consumer. You'd obviously have to pay whatever that would be, but the studies seem to suggest that you can get energy cheaper if there's competition with the investor-owned utility. So that's, I think, what the discussion is about. Mr. Hippolyte, you want to add anything?
Members of council, I just wanted to reiterate a few things about community choice energy. What I believe we're being requested is a letter of support. I believe that's what's being requested, is a letter of support in favor of the legislation. I've had an opportunity to reach out to CML's general counsel, and as of right now, CML has not taken a formal position, right, wrong, or indifferent. But I provided them documentation so CML could start that process of having conversations with its members. From a legal perspective, the way this is designed to work is, first and foremost, a community like Pueblo would have to decide by a vote, typically an ordinance or a vote of the people, that it wants to pursue this. Then an entity, whether it's through a co-op or through the city itself, would then go and try to negotiate better rates or higher renewable percentages. Typically, much of the white paper talks about how communities that use community choice energy have much higher renewable percentages faster, and they're able to cap rates. They're able to fix rates for a longer period of time than using investor-owned utilities. But the downside to this process is typically you have to pay an exit fee. The reason you pay an exit fee is because that allows the rest of the ratepayers in the investor-owned utility not to get a rate increase by you leaving. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do we have to decide today if we're writing a letter of support, or do we have time to review it on our own? When was the deadline for the letter of support?
There is not specifically a deadline. I don't believe we were given a specific.
No, there isn't. This legislation is going to be offered this legislative session coming up. Last year, the state legislature had the PUC do a feasibility study on whether CCE could be implemented in Colorado. They did that. That is with the PUC and the legislature. The legislators that are sponsoring this legislation, one from the representatives, one from the Senate, are doing this. And like the definition of community choice energy says, CCE gives communities or groups of communities that are served by a monopoly investor-owned utility the option to procure electricity for their residents and businesses from alternative wholesale suppliers. This generally, what it does is put competition in the marketplace. If, for instance, we were to go out and get a utility scale solar array to provide our electricity, if Black Hills wanted to compete with those rates, then they could compete. If a person or a community wanted to stay with the investor-owned community utility or go with the utility scale provider, they could do that. It's an opt-in, opt-out type situation. In most cases, there are 9 other states that have community choice. They call it community choice aggregation in these other states, but Colorado decided community choice energy. In the long run, it does provide lower costs for the community and its constituents. So I've been working on this for probably the last 7 or 8 years with different groups, groups from Boulder, groups from Denver, and we believe that it's a viable alternative to investor-owned utilities. And it does put competition in the marketplace. Not to mention that we could go 100% renewable. Let's say we decided to go with a utility scale solar provider. They would come in, build the solar array, and we would get all of our, and also individually, people could opt in or opt out. If a person decided, no, I don't want to go with this renewable energy person, I want to stay with Black Hills, they could stay right where they are. So it's an opt-in, opt-out. I'm asking that we do a letter of support and a proclamation of support towards this legislation.
Councilor Maestri?
Well, when I lived in Texas, you actually, as an individual, there would be 10 different providers coming through, and I could be with, Ace Electric one week, and then maybe Blue Electric has a lower rate in a couple of weeks, and I could change over. So each individual household had the right to contract with the different utility providers, and there was like a slew of them. What's that difference? What does that offer? Because what you're saying is, and what I'm understanding is, it's either going to be Black Hills or another company. Whereas in Texas, they do you can go with, you have a choice of 6-10 different companies you could go with. And that's really competitive, as the energy bills get really low at that point.
So Texas has a deregulated market.
Mm-hmm.
So in Texas, it's not the same market that we have here in Colorado. They're not monopoly investor-owned utilities in the same way. So utilities have to, in this deregulated market, compete for service without restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
It does, to your point, have the benefit of being able to shop around.
Mm-hmm.
There are some detriments. I mean, there are a few stories out there that can tell when there are windstorms, ice storms, or things like that happen in Texas. People get very large energy bills because they are deregulated.
Mm-hmm.
This is different in the sense that the community would collectively be saying, we are going to go purchase from a wholesaler this option or this renewable energy mix that is cheaper and or has a greater renewable energy mix on behalf of the community. So then the community can decide, as Councilor Atencio said, whether they want to stay with Black Hills or they would want to opt into this alternative. It's not the same amount of competition as a deregulated system, but what it would create is the city's ability to go from a consistent perspective, find cheaper wholesale prices for its constituents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the individual could opt in or opt out.
So we have a lobbyist too. I wonder what he has to say about it, because he's talking to the different municipalities.
No, getting information from him.
So
critical.
I'm wondering,
Sure.
before we make a decision, we should ask him of his.
Well, he'll advocate for us, whatever we tell him to do. So
Well, I realize that, but what is the feel from the other communities? What are they thinking?
Our lobbyist also works for Black Hills Energy. Just thought I'd throw that out.
So what I will say is
All of a sudden he's great, but he's not, because he's connected to Black Hills.
I think the mayor's just pointing out the mayor's just pointing out maybe an alternative interest. But the white paper that has been provided to council has several examples of existing Colorado entities that through co-ops have community choice energy and buy energy at lower rates. So you can look at those that, for example, the town of Fountain, they have a municipal utility and they've negotiated with Guzman Energy for wholesale power, which is going to reduce the total cost by 25% in 2027. So it's out there. The examples are out there. I think from a lobbyist perspective, city council can do two things at the same time. It can both support this being brought forth at the state legislative session and being debated and having the bill worked through, and it can try through its lobbyists to shape that legislation. Those two things don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Yeah, I just was wondering what he has perspective of what the other communities that he's working with is thinking. And so I'd like to hear that perspective of what the other communities are thinking. And thanks for letting us know, Mayor, that he's tied to Black Hills Energy. We'll scrutinize him a little harder when we question him.
So are we clear about direction, or
If you're looking for direction,
confused?
this is the first time I've seen this, so I need to research it myself. And I need more time to think about whether or not I can support it. And by the way, I did know that our lobbyist did represent Black Hills. He represents a lot of companies. So I don't think that's unusual.
So would this be, Mr. Hippolyte, would we need to vote on the letter of support as like a resolution, or?
You could. I think Councilor Atencio also asked for a proclamation, if I'm correct, Councilor Atencio, supporting this legislation. So that would also be an avenue for the vote.
You can wait until the legislation is introduced. It
We
doesn't
also
have
could
to be today. You know, if you want to do more research, that's fine with me. I've been at this for quite a few years, so I know pretty much what it does and what it doesn't do, and that's why why I would support it. But if it's new to you guys, that's fine with me. It's just, you could bring it forward when the legislation is introduced. There are other cities, though, all over the state of Colorado that are supporting this, and the legislation probably will pass in the state legislature. So if that gives you an idea of what the support is around the state.
How about we revisit this at the December 11th meeting? Does that work for everyone? That's plenty. That's like several weeks.
Will Gil be able to talk to us before then?
Well, either December 11th or December 26th is when Gil's gonna come.
So let's
We're-
schedule
we're-
it at the same time.
We can.
We're supporting something that hasn't been introduced in the legislative session, and that doesn't occur until January. We don't even know what the bill's going to look like, do we?
Well, they did send a draft copy of the legislation. I didn't give that to you because
I've seen it. No, I've seen it, Councilor Atencio. I've seen the draft.
You've seen it?
Yes, I've
Yeah.
seen. So, just as an overview, although the formal legislative session has not started, many bills have already been being worked through different committees through the state legislature, and I believe this bill worked through the Energy Committee, or maybe the Transportation and Energy Committee has already been worked through a version. So I've seen that version. So while it has not been formally introduced to your point, Councilor Flores, the bill is still working around and being worked on outside of session.
All right, so we will talk to Gil whenever he comes December 11th or December 26th. Is that cool? Excellent. So our last agenda item, we're going to talk about council member, board, and commission updates. The last time we did this was like 4 months ago, so last quarter. So there should be plenty of updates to talk about. Council member Martinez Ortega, do you have any updates?
From the Airport Advisory Committee? No.
Councilor Graham?
Just a couple of things going on. So I sit on the Heart Board. Friday is the annual Riverwalk lighting. It starts at 5 o'clock. It's gonna be very cold down there. Mickey and Minnie will be here. If anybody wants to join, they have the boats going with the lights on it. There was a meeting today about the Heart Project and the bid process that I got to sit on, and we're waiting for direction to move forward to see if Pura is going to be able to provide any funding to offset the bid cost. It's about $6 million. So we're waiting.
Is that the shortfall?
Yeah, but the contingencies, right? That was it, 6 million.
Yeah, if the all-in bid with all of the alternatives, the shortfall with contingency would be about $6+ million.
So Urban Renewal might have some funds, district, and they might have some RTA money left over. So they were gonna check into that and then get back with the city. I don't really have anything for Petco. The Latino Chamber, they're having their Festival of Lights on December 14th, the tree lighting that you can buy for, I think it's at the depot.
The Christmas trees.
The Christmas trees, yeah. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Counselor Tencio?
Yeah, I was at a Fountain Creek District meeting last week. We're down to less than $20 million in the bank. The Northridge project that they're working on Fountain Creek might cost up to $9 million. So that's going to leave them with $9 million left in the bank. The point I'm trying to make is that if they don't bring forth some kind of property tax for the district, they're going to run out of money. And what's going to happen then is there'll be absolutely nothing done on the on the Fountain Creek, and everything will be left up to the entities, the public entities, Pueblo, Colorado Springs, Fountain, all the way up the creek. I don't think we have $100 million to put into the creek on our behalf. So they're very reluctant to try to put that on the ballot. And the reasoning is that why would people up in the northern parts of the reaches of the Fountain Creek and Monument Creek and those places tax themselves to benefit Pueblo? Well, the problem is that all the garbage that happens up there flows right down here and into the Arkansas, not to mention the Arkansas Valley. So they're very reluctant to put it into things. So that's going to be coming up in the next year or so. Hopefully they'll put it on the ballot in the next couple of years. They're going to have to bite the bullet one way or another. I think the average household is going to pay less than $2 a month on their property taxes to keep the Fountain Creek and to not only to maintain it, but to build it up to the point where it's going to be recreationally usable. The farmers all up and down Fountain Creek and you need the help. The sedimentation that's coming off those banks is, as you can see it comes right down here, right through Pueblo all the time. So that's going to be a problem in the next couple of years. Pueblo-Plex, bright, sunshiny future for that place. It's going to be great. A lot of things are happening there. A lot of things are going to be happening at Pueblo-Plex. And what else am I on? Regional building. They are going gangbusters all the time. They're busy, just working their little butts off. So regional building looks good. And that's all I got.
Counselor Flores?
I'm on PACOG. We just had a meeting this morning in regard to the revenue that's received from all of the entities. There's 8 entities, the city, the county, Board of Waterworks, the sanitation districts. And that will move forward to our December 14th. And that'll be one of the agenda items. But we have very little money invested in that. It's just for operating money. Most of the money comes from, the state CDOT. And so we'll have a meeting on the 14th. That's about the only thing that's happening there. On urban renewal, we'll be seeing 2 items in the next couple of weeks. The ratification of urban renewal wanting to build another hotel on Elizabeth Street by the Old Chicago. There's a piece of land there. We'll also be seeing the Bluffs project, which has been on the books for a couple of years. John Rourke, we've had several presentations on that. So that's what they're working on now. Somewhere down the line, we'll be probably in January, we'll have to be working on the West Pueblo project, but that'll be after the first of the year. I'm on the Front Range Passenger Rail District. The governor is really pushing that something be put on the ballot in November of next year. A lot of people on the committee think that's too quick, but we'll be having a retreat at the end of the month in Denver on that. So lots of little moving parts there. And that's the project moving passenger rail from Fort Collins all the way to Trinidad. Let's see, what else am I on? Pura, PACOG. I think that's it. That's all I have.
you have anything, Councilor Maishi?
I don't know the name of boards.
I just briefly for the Commission on Housing and Homelessness, there was a strategic planning session August and September that it kind of rolled over into that meeting. There's now a full-time employee out of our housing department actually, who's half of her time is actually dedicated to supporting the Commission of Housing and Homelessness moving forward, and facilitating that plan in that group. So that's pretty exciting that there's a dedicated FTE now for that plan in the Commission on Housing and Homelessness. And then the Planning and Zoning Commission, as Councilor Flores alluded to, approved Pura's North Elizabeth Hotel project as well as the Bluff project unanimously. And then the city planners are also diligently working on an ordinance for accessory dwelling units. We have a draft ordinance that the Planning and Zoning Commission has been reviewing for about 2 weeks now. And so it's kind of a constant work session thing on Planning and Zoning Commission meetings, but hopefully the Planning and Zoning Department's plan is to get it through Planning and Zoning, and then hopefully we'll see it here in council. And we'll probably have a work session or two about it as well.
I thought they were going to change that when they bring the code changes. I thought they were going to put that all together in a new change with the contractor that they're hiring to come in and change the codes.
So the ADU ordinance is how we have seen it is by itself. And I know though that because Andrew was talking about the building codes earlier today, and that process is going to has not been started yet. The updating the building codes and that whole process. Land use codes.
Yeah. I thought that was going to be part of the land use codes changes.
I think it's happening congruently. However, it's separate in terms of the ordinance.
Well, they haven't gotten. Yeah, but the land use codes are
turn your mic on right here.
The land use codes are going to have public input. They're having community meetings where the public is involved with the stakeholders. And so you get public input there. Whereas if we do it here on council, it's what we decide to do, and it should come through, the community should have a say in it. It shouldn't just be restricted to planning and zoning and then just council's decision.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that it'll actually there will be public input at the planning and zoning level if that passes, as well as council level. So
nobody's going to know about that meeting. Nobody's going to look at that meeting.
As a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission, there's been several people who have come to testify.
Well, I think that when they come out with the land use changes, that is going to probably be I would hope that there would be a lot of community involvement because it's going to affect our neighborhoods. And I think that's a bigger platform for those ideas to be discussed than to bring it here on council. I mean, you could do whatever you want, but I would not be voting for that individually when it can come through the land use changes that are coming together as whole.
Oh, you're here.
Here we are. I was going to say that there are actually two different land use code changes going on at the same time, right? So the county is working on one and the city is going to be working on as well. The process, the scope of work that was, the RFP rather, that was issued for award of a consultant to help us develop those new codes. Part of their scope of work is the public input and facilitating public input in that process. It's a very important part of this. So there's absolutely no intent that this is going to be done in a vacuum. There will be targeted meetings for specific topics, engagement with specific groups of those who have various interests in that process. So it's not going to be something that's just written up and brought to council or to P&Z.
Mayor. Oh. That was the update. Did you have other?
Well, I'd like to see it come through that process that you're talking about rather than just an ordinance separate from that on its own.
Okay, Mayor.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of interest in the status of the warming shelter. Wanted to advise you that the funds were wired today to close on that. And as soon as the buyer signs, which I think, or the seller signs, I think, which is going to be on Wednesday, then ownership of that will transfer to the Pueblo Rescue Mission. They're prepared to open that warming shelter Friday evening. Probably they're going to serve Thanksgiving dinner, and they sort of have possession of it now, parts of it anyway, pursuant to a lease they have. Their plan is to serve Thanksgiving dinner there on Thanksgiving Day. I signed an order today. I don't know if it's been publicized or not yet, declaring a housing or a weather emergency starting, I think, at 7 p.m. Friday, continuing through 7 a.m. next Wednesday, I think, because of the predicted cold temperatures. So wanted to give you that update. I think there'll be adequate capacity to help the homeless there. And also want to let you know, because I know there's some interest, I saw on Facebook today that the Pueblo Rescue Mission is looking for the donation of crates, so that I think they're going to allow up to 10 individuals to bring their dogs or their animals. I assume it's only dogs, maybe it's other animals as well, to the shelter as well, if they sign a waiver and a release, so that there will be that option for people that have pets who don't want to take their pets to the animal shelter, which will still accept them on a temporary basis if the person needs to go to a warming shelter and can't take their pet with them, but they're at least trying to make some arrangements to accept some of the pets for some of those homeless people. So I think things are on course, and it should be a different winter than it has been in the past.
Yeah, that's great news. I did see that on social media, I think yesterday or earlier today, and I was actually going to ask about that, Mayor. So it sounds like it's 10, it's only going to be limited to like the first 10 people that have pets. Do you know any other details? Or
I
maybe...
don't. I know they're going to have to sign a waiver saying,
okay,
you know, your pet's going in at such and such a time, your pet's coming out at such and such a time. You're fully responsible for that pet, you know, so it's going to be that kind of deal where they'll be in a kennel in a, I think they characterize it as a warehouse or something, but anyway.
On their property?
I think on their property.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, step forward. I think they're learning as they go. And so it will, we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, I'm very glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Mayor, I noticed there were people working around that small house that we bought. Are they in the process of raising?
They are abating the asbestos that's contained in the caulking of the windows. So they started that today. Apparently, once they do that abatement, they're required to wait 10 days before they can demolish the building. But I think the building's supposed to be demolished on the 4th of December or the 6th of December is the date, I remember.
December 11th. December
11th. So the building's coming down. We have a contractor there. They started the abatement today on the asbestos there. So that's going to be torn down as well. So lots of progress is being made in that area.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, I adjourn this work session at 7:21 p.m. And happy Thanksgiving.